here, Meath. All right, and then this is Northern Ireland, which has a red border, and that belongs to Great Britain. Even though, as you can see, traditional Ulster includes a number of counties that are in the Republic. And the reason they didn't include them was because there were too many Catholics living there. All right, so it's entirely political, religious. All right, so this is of course, a quick view of everything.
When was it?
This was in July.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're gonna visit the National Archaeological Museum in Dublin first, which is always recommended to give you an overview. Ireland is soggy with history, going back about 9,000 years. All right, the Romans never got to Ireland, but it was populated by warring tribes, and we have their archaeological remains in the form of passage tombs, round forts, many of which you'll see. The logic of my tour is geographical. It's how I drove around, so it's not chronological. So if you start with this wonderful archaeological museum, which is in beautiful marble decor, you can get an idea of some of the ages. Let me take this off. You see, here's a necklace from 2000 BCE, and then a necklace from 8 to 700 BCE. You can see the improvement in the design. These are relic holders, so this is from the Christian era. Oh, fuck. Nora, sweetie, I'm at the WAH Center giving a show right now.
You're still giving a show? Okay, so when...
I'm leaving here.
He's giving a show right now.
At this very moment. I'm leaving around 5:15. I'll be there by 6.
Okay, great. See you at 6. Love you. Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. So these are reliquaries. Look a little like toilet seats, but anyway. No, these are the ones that look like toilet seats. And with the explanation there. This is a model of a Viking ship. The Vikings came to Ireland. This is a skull of a poor guy who got hit in the head with an axe, battle axe. And this is 10th century.
You have to mention Viking.
What is it?
Yeah, Viking went from northern Scandinavia all the way down.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And this is a Viking village, a model of a Viking village. This is an alabaster carving. And now we're going to, this is James Joyce, the James Joyce statue on the streets of Dublin, I'm sorry. And this is a quick visit to the James Joyce house. So here are a few chapters of Ulysses represented in collage. There's Leopold Bloom down here, an artist's representation of Bloom, which and Ulysses, as you know, takes place on June 16th, 1904. And this is my favorite chapter, the Cyclops chapter, the drinker who's full of prejudices and anger and a right-winger. And everything's exaggerated in the chapter. It's hilarious. The one above that is the Wandering Rocks. This is a model of a hotel room that Joyce would have stayed in when he was writing Ulysses during the First World War. And he moved 21 times while he was writing Ulysses. There's his bookshelf and a portrait of his wife. This is the bed table.
Was he skipping out on the rent?
What's that?
Was he skipping out on the rent?
Yeah, he was always had problems paying his rent. Now that's me, and I'm standing next to 7 Eccles Street, which is in the Joyce Museum. 7 Eccles Street was supposed to be the address of Bloom and Molly, and that's the door that no longer exists. And this is some of the paint. What is it?
How long did he stay?
Well, he never lived there. That was just the address of his fictional characters.
Yeah,
Here is finally a translation of Ulysses into Irish, into Gaelic. All right, and this is part of the culture of Dublin, their local beers and their foreign beers. The Temple Bar area, which is a great amusement, drinking, fun place. And a living leprechaun and one of his fans. Now, I ran into this group of women, and they were going to a bridal shower, but they told me that they call it a hen party over there. So I lined them up and took their picture, just as I do with my subjects in my weddings. Here's a fellow riding on a leprechaun. And I thought it was very, very considerate of the Irish Traffic Authority to paint "Look Left" on for those of us coming from the continent and from the New World, because we would always look right for cars. Okay. So now we're going to a seaside resort north of Dublin called Howth. Okay? It's originally a fishing village, but people go there on a weekend. You take a local train, and then you can take a boat out to this wonderful island called Ireland's Eye, which is, there's the boat, and it has a number of Martello towers. If you remember, Ulysses starts in one, but it's to the south of Dublin, and the Martello towers were built to defend Ireland against Napoleon. And here we are on Ireland's Eye, and you see juvenile seagulls. Now, there are a number of different species of birds, and each species roosted with only its own species. The rocks at the end. So here are the cormorants. There's a cormorant. And there were a number of sea caves. And we saw puffins. There's a puffin on land, everyone's favorite. And then I taking the boat back, you circumnavigate the island. You see the end. Now I'm leaving Dublin, and I'm going to go north to New Meath County, to Newgrange, which is the most spectacular of the ancient passage tombs. And here it is. This is a reconstruction at the site.
Can I put it on full screen?
What?
So
Can I put
famous.
it on full screen?
Ireland is famous for green.
Oh, put it on full screen. That's a good idea. Where is it? Up here, right? One of these.
View.
What?
View.
Yeah. Let's see. Enter full. Oh yeah, right. Why not? Here we go. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you to Oren Buck, my technical advisor here. All right. And there I am. Now I'm on. My elbows are on what's called a curbstone, and the curbstone is filled with the prehistoric designs, which are known as Celtic spirals. Okay, I think they're very similar to mandalas in theme, and these are more curbstones, and there's something like 90-some curbstones that surround this, and then on top is a mound of dirt, and then when you go in, where photography is not permitted, but that never stops me. Okay, you can actually walk standing up, and these are photographs of inside, and this is where they recreate the effect of the winter solstice. Okay, because the thing is built astronomically to receive the sun on the winter solstice. So astronomy was very important to these people. This is looking up. You see more spirals, and then here are more passage tombs in Knowth, Knowth, which is right nearby. What is it?
Passage tombs. Why passage tombs? What does that mean?
No, not package tomb. Passage tomb. Passage. Well, because you can walk in.
Passage.
You walk in. Yeah, there's a passage. Okay, so now the first ruin I saw was called Mellifont Abbey, and you can see that it's only 1,000 years old. So what I've come from is perhaps 6,000 or 7,000 years old, and now this is less than 1,000 years old. So you're constantly going back and forth in history. And you see these ruins all around Ireland. And another thing that I appreciated, someone, as I left Ireland, said, Ireland is wonderful, it's beautiful. Someone said, what about the weather? And I said, well, we had sun 3 times yesterday. But the thing is, sun is not always the best weather for photography. So the dark skies, and a certain moodiness, I think makes these things more dramatic. Monastery, which is 500 years older, and a Celtic cross, which gives you carved scenes from the Bible, assuming that the common people were illiterate, of course.
Well, if you have carved scenes, then
What?
if you have carved scenes, you don't need to be literal.
That's right. That's right. This is addressing itself to the illiterate public, and I love lichens. And next, what?
It means it's a very healthy environment when you're like
Very healthy environment.
where there's less lichens, you're more prone to cancer.
Where there are fewer lichens, it's less healthy. Oh, good. I didn't know that. Next was Loch Crew, which was another group of passage tombs. But to get there, I had to invade the territory of sheep and goats. Here we are in Loch Crew. More passage tombs, but not as spectacular as Newgrange. Here are two photographs of the Celtic art, and you had to crouch down a little to get into them.
What symbolizes those round ones?
Oh, we don't know. I mean, there was no alphabet. There was no written language. So we just have to. We can only speculate. And I saw them as kind of universal symbols, similar to what did I say before? Yeah, right. So this is looking up, mandalas, right. And so this is looking up. Now notice this is called dry stone, meaning there's no cement. These are all, they perfected the technique of laying stones on top of each other in a stable manner and building these tombs. There it is from outside. And also, this is also, sorry, this is a drone photograph.
No,
I flew my drone there.
Where is it? In
I showed you. I showed you. See Loch Crew right above Trim? See, I've circled Trim. See? And Loch Crew is now coming. All right, so now I'm going to Trim Castle. Okay? And this is considered
2024.
Anglo Nordic.
Anglican.
Beautiful castle. And this is the keep. I love the negative spaces of these things. I saw a lot of castles in Wales. Now, Tullynally Castle is Gothic Revival, 19th century. It's considerably newer. It's privately owned. Many people just live there, but I just walked in and started photographing. Now we're going to Bective Abbey, a little off the road, 15th, 16th centuries. So Ireland is it's dotted with these ruins, and I find everyone charming. Everyone just draws you in. Of course, when we have good clouds like that, it's even better. Looking down the circular stairway. And some of my fellow tourists, you see these places are mostly empty. They're not that visited. There's nothing spectacular. This is not a theme park. But yet these people who were from Eastern Europe, I believe they were from Slovenia, were interested in this.
And they don't even advertise for tourist attraction.
No.
No. It's amazing that you investigated. You went.
Well,
there.
I have my guidebooks, my rough guide, and I also had a guide to prehistoric Ireland, and I combined three of the tours. Each one was a 6-day tour, and I had 22 days. Oh, that should be the main title. Sorry. All right. Okay. Now, see where Cluntia is? It's next to. See where Cluntia is? My friends in Cluntia. Okay. So I stayed in Cluntia with a lovely couple who lived off the grid, had no electricity or running water, and they said you must go to Carrowkeel, and it's considered a prehistoric cemetery with more passage tombs, but the passages were maybe 3 feet high. All right. Now we're in County Mayo, I believe. What is it? Sligo? Well, there's Sligo over here. And Sligo is Yeats territory. Okay, so you'll see in Carrowkeel. Okay, now this is pretty old. All right, 3400 to 3100 BCE.
So those goats are all over.
Oh yeah, you see the sheep and goats all over. Yeah, and here, and I love the vines, the roots on the ground. Here, you walk up among these and you go to them. They're much smaller than Loughcrew and certainly Newgrange. Newgrange is huge.
You are able to go into the mound.
No, there you are. But a few of them you can peek into. But this is a much tighter space. This is maybe 3 feet tall and maybe 3.5 feet wide. Yeah. You see. So the people building Loughcrew already had this tradition behind them. And here's looking out from one of the tombs. Now, it's practically deserted, very few tourists. Now, this mountain is the famous flat-top Ben Bulben. And those of you who know your Yeats know he has a poem called Under Ben Bulben, which is where he wanted to be buried, and sure enough, that's where he's buried. Now, I didn't have time to drive up to Yeats country, I'm so sorry. So there's a lot more for me to see in Ireland. And you can see how lush and beautiful the Emerald Isle is, with all that water in the air, right?
It's fertilized.
What?
It is fertilized.
Oh, yes. Oh, it's fertilized? Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, now Cluntia was right nearby, and this is where I stayed with my friends. And that's their mechanic. And they took me on a walk around their grounds, and it was a beautiful, misty morning. And oh, now, here they are as fairies, right? And this is the picture that you have. Now, we bathed in the river that goes through their property, and the second morning I figured I better do this if they're going to do it. So we all got naked, put towels around ourselves, and went down to the river, threw off the towels, jumped in, and I steeled myself to the cold water, forgetting that I had my glasses on, which went promptly to the bottom of the river. So Judy, whom you see on the left, fished around and found them, and I had my glasses for the rest of the trip. Then I said, wait, you're naked, go under the gunnera. Now this is Gunnera manicata, which I first saw in Wales in 2007. And they're these giant leaves. But to Americans who are not familiar with this plant, you don't know the scale. So I say these are my fairies. And you notice that fairies do age. Okay, there they are. And they make these little butterflies out of shells or dragonflies. There they are in their little sanctuary, where they have a hawk made of driftwood. And there they are in the river, where I lost my glasses. Here's their interior. Okay, now Jimmy plays a melodeon. This is called a melodeon, and twice a week in the nearby bar, and we had a lot of fun. Here are the players. The penny whistle. There they are. Okay, so now we have, go back one. Let's go back one. Okay, here, slideshow part 2. Okay, and bring these all down to preview. Okay, and go to view, full screen. Okay, full screen. All right, full screen. Okay. Now here I am in the Museum of Country Life and the 19th century aristocratic home nearby, and this is an Aeolian piano. It's the only one in existence. There it is. I was not allowed to play it. And in this museum you see country life of around the late 19th century, and this is a representation of a traveler's wagon, and the travelers are like Irish gypsies, and there are still 22,000 of them, but 15,000 are living in stationary homes in cities, but that means 7,000 of them are still wandering around. St. Patrick, and they had a video of mummers, some of the Irish Mother. This is near Cluntia. This is my stop there. thatching, all the things made of grass. And then they had a geology movie. This is just one frame of it. Old bicycles and this wonderful tree on their property, a cedar tree. Now, I headed out Connemara, County Connemara, and managed to see Kylemore Abbey. I didn't have time to see the national park. So these are the Victorian walled gardens of Kylemore Abbey, and the best part about it was the fern walk. Oh my God!
Huge.
Yeah,
It's
just.
a school. It was run by nuns.
This is an artichoke.
Is it very moisture?
Oh, yep. Everything in Ireland has lots of moisture, and their lake. And then this is a half-size Gothic cathedral on the property. There it is. And this is the woman for whom the Gothic cathedral was built after her death. Now, driving along the roads of Ireland, one comes upon abandoned stone houses without roofs all over the place. And this is just one of them. I pulled over and took this photograph, and most of these were abandoned during the Great Famine of 1849 to 1852. But this is, okay. Kilmagdaw, okay. This is another, oh, here it is. Now, this is a very interesting abbey because it has this tower, and if you look closely, there's no door. Right? So how did they, wait, before we get to it, that's me. Okay, this tower was to hide from marauders, for the monks to hide from marauders, and apparently they kept a rope ladder hanging here all the time, and then when there was a threat, they would climb up the rope ladder and pull it in and just stay there. Presumably there are stairs going all the way up. Just stay there until the people had passed. And they, the marauders would burn and pillage and deface, but at least they were still alive. Now I climbed over the fence because I was sure that the most interesting tombs were inside, and
So
I found
they
some
allow
interesting.
you to climb
What
up.
is that?
They allow you to.
No, they don't, but there was no one to stop me. And I wasn't doing any damage. Here's the tower. Okay, now we're going down to County Clare. This is County Clare. And first we're going to see the Burren. Then I'm going to go to Doolin, which is the port, and take a boat out to Inishmore here, and then take a bicycle out to the 5th century fort on the cliff called Dun Angus. Okay, here we go. Now the Burren is karst limestone that extends over a very wide area. And they have nature walks through it. It's very interesting forms. These are in black and white. Close-up of one area that I thought was very beautiful. And the animals really make use of the hiding capacities of the Burren. Mosses, ferns, moss-covered rocks. Now this was the remains of a house, about a 150-year-old house, which was in ruins, and then the ruins were overgrown with moss. You can see the wall. Now here's Leemenaw Castle, which is right nearby, and the WAH Center has a photograph of Leemenaw Castle, which was 16th century. It was a ruin by the 18th century. But I thought, I just love these walls. I love this stuff. And by the way, it was locked. I had to climb over a gate to get in. But of course, some of the best pictures are where the public is forbidden. Here we are in the middle of the Burren. You can see the Burren karst limestone. This is called Poulnabron, megalithic tomb, 4200 to 2900 BC. It didn't take that long to build this thing, but no one left any dates or signatures, so there it is. There I am inside, looking out. Now, I had learned about the Sheelanagigs when I was still at home, and I was determined to see them, so I went to Kilnaboy Church. Actually, 2 days later, I'd forgotten that I had to go back from Limerick. But I'm putting this in because it's right there, right next to Leemanau. And this is a 16th century church, but with a 13th century carving. There's the carving. There's the Sheelanigig. And there it is close up. Okay? Now, the Sheelanigig represents an old woman with no hair, naked, pulling her thighs apart. And it's considered an abundance fertility symbol that's pre-Christian, but it was very venerated by the people, so it ends up on a wall that became a church. And they're all over Ireland, England, and Wales. I have a book about them at home. Now, unfortunately, this is quite eroded. I have a photograph of it before it was so eroded, but that's the only one I saw. But you can do a whole Sheelanigig tour of Ireland if you want.
Did you get the photograph before it was eroded by going back in time?
No, I didn't have you with me, so I couldn't do that. Now, here are some effigies from our current era. I went into this souvenir shop, and I was charmed by the leprechauns, and I asked the proprietor, Gloria, this woman, if she had any leprechauns that were soft and pliable, because I had a 2-year-old and I didn't want to give him anything porcelain, he might break it. She said, well, I guess you'll have to get the real thing then, without a pause. But she did have a leprechaun doll, which I bought. Now, she's the one who said, told her, I miss the cliffs of Moher. She said, don't go there now. You'll just pay for parking and not see a thing in the mist. Go back to Doolin and you'll see them from the shore. So I went to Doolin, and I discovered here are the cliffs of Moher, not terribly prepossessing from this perspective. However, the burren was going right into the water. This is still the karst burren. And through the erosion of the salt water, it had become a littoral reef with tidal pools. And I thought it was just beautiful. So for about 45 minutes in a light rain, I photographed the sculptural forms of this littoral reef. And close up, you can see the periwinkles and the mussels and the barnacles. Look at this stuff. I go nuts over this. Look at this. I got about 135 pictures, of which you're seeing maybe 10. Looks like Andy Goldsworthy stuff, the crack. And then this wonderful maidenhair algae area. Look at this stuff. Look at this. Okay, now, I took the boat from Doolin out to the farthest and largest Aran island called Inishmore, but we passed Inishmaan, the second island, on the way, and this is from the boat, and they get around in horse-drawn carts. And then finally we come to Inishmore, and I rented a bicycle and rode 4 kilometers past these wonderful lawns looking down and surrounded by water, people grazing their horses, and I put my bicycle down and went to explore another ruined house. There it is. And you can see there's still karst burren out there. And this mule was watching me to be sure I didn't steal any stones, I suppose.
What is the population in this?
Of this island?
Mm.
Oh,
No.
of what?
Ireland.
Ireland? Of Ireland?
Ireland, where you
Wait.
here.
This island of
No,
Inishmore, or the entire Ireland?
Not country of Ireland.
This one island,
Yeah.
Inishmore. I don't know. It's probably about 5,000.
1,000.
Now here's the cliff fort. Oh, I'm sorry. It's older than I said. 1100 to 500 BCE. Okay, and you walk a half a mile from the visitor center where you park your bike up to see this thing. And it's very low lying, but the cliffs are incredible. All right, that was looking north. This is looking south. And then this is the fort itself. And then you go back. And here's more burren. And they had this wonderful knitwear and sheepskin shop on the way back to the port. And then you bring your bicycle back, and you get your 10 euro deposit back, and you've paid them 10 for the rental. This is the cliffs of Moher from the water. I was throwing up. It's very choppy, so this is not very not very impressive. I mean, it's big, but this, as a photograph, this doesn't mean very much to me. So that's why I went back. Okay, then on to Limerick. Limerick was a very interesting city. First of all, there was a gay pride parade there. Totally, I just happened on it. And look at this, Travelers and Roma, LGBT Travelers and Roma. So I knew what the travelers were from that museum that I'd been to. And then I met them, then I ran into them. So they're real travelers, just look like everybody else, don't they? Okay. So these are some composites.
And the Roma are the gypsies?
What?
Roma are the regular?
Yeah, Roma are the traditional gypsies. World's first LGBT matchmaking and music festival. Okay. These are men, obviously. And this is St. Mary's Cathedral, an Irish church Gothic cathedral. Notice how austere it is, as opposed to a Catholic church. The Irish church is part of the Anglican church, so it's a Protestant church. And they had these wonderful gisants. And there's their desk where they said, oh, there's an obligatory donation of €4. So I made the obligatory donation. Now, I also went to their museum there, where I saw some paintings by Jack Yeats. Jack Yeats was the younger brother of the poet William Butler Yeats, and I was unfamiliar with his work. He's very expressionist. Notice he lived till 1957. William Butler Yeats died in 1939. He was born in 1865, I believe. So he was about 10 years older than his brother. And Jack Yeats is greatly beloved by the Irish people. Notice? So, and I put in the titles to these paintings.
Expression. Did he go to
What?
Paris? Did he go to Paris to mingle with art group? Or he...
I don't know his biography. He may very well. Now, if you ever wondered what God looked like, here's a painting of him. He sat for this painter.
Idolatry.
What?
That's idolatry.
That sure is. Okay, now King John's Castle is the other major attraction in Limerick. And it is a wonderful historical museum. Here's a reconstruction of Limerick in 1535. There's King John and the blacksmith shop. And these were two reenactors. And I had a half-hour wonderful conversation with this guy who considered himself the constable of the castle on contemporary politics. And it was very interesting to get his perspective. And there's the view from the tower in King John's Castle. I pointed out St. Mary's Church. There's looking in the other direction. And that's your humble narrator. And this is what they were selling. Mead, of course, is an alcoholic drink made from honey, and it's mentioned in Beowulf. Okay, now here, they were very kind to tell you to look left, but of course they wrote it in Irish, so that didn't really help the people from North America or the continent. There were some very interesting murals on the buildings, and these creative things on the way out of town, so I pulled over and photographed them. This is out of order. This is what you saw the piano in, Turlough House. Okay, that should have been above. Okay, now we're going down to Tralee. I drove to Tralee, see, from Limerick, right, to Tralee, and I stayed that night in Sean Ogg's, a famous bar, and they have, it was a bed and breakfast upstairs, a fabulous breakfast the following day. And these are my companions of the evening. I'll never meet them again, but this is the hospitality and conviviality of the Irish. So we just had wonderful conversations and then parted, and that was it. Nearby is Adfert Cathedral, Anglo-Norman Romanesque, 12th century. See the Romanesque arches. And then, finally, I get to the Dingle Peninsula, down in the lower left, as you can see. Connor Pass. All right, it's pretty narrow here going up. And then you park and walk around. There's a wonderful waterfall there. And this is the view. You're looking north. Okay, and there's a ruin down here. Let's see, there. Now, I went to Cashel Murphy. Cashel means fort. And this is one of the stone forts. I think it's the first one on this in the slideshow. And walked around it and in it, and I flew my drone there. So this is a still from the drone video. And as it was up in the air, a young man came up to me, a boy actually, and said, "You're not allowed to fly your drone." So I wrote it down. But I had my pictures. Okay, so now we close this. And we go back one. Go back one. Oh wait, no. What is my procedure here? Okay, go to here. We're now number 3. Okay, here we go. All. We're going to dingle. We're going to preview. Okay. Okay, view. See, the Irish are not only proud of their history, but they have many, many museums and reconstructions of the history. And this is a privately owned museum. What did you see? No, privately owned museum. Very homey inside. And the owner comes from Connecticut, as a matter of fact, and he's put in a number of things. I mean, a dinosaur skeleton? Is it from Ireland? I don't believe so. But these are very, very definitely Celtic, from Ireland, and these would be brooches that would hold a shawl together or a cloak. Okay. Celtic god. Now this is from the Middle East, though. These are not Irish. But he collected them and he put them in his museum. A little erotic stuff. And he had this boar's head with a cigar and a derby hat, which I thought was clever. Now, they had a famine village there where the mannequins were incredibly realistic. If you can imagine, these are the conditions that people were living under at the time of the famine. Unpaved floors, dirt floors, water all over the place. Okay. No movie houses. No dentists. Okay. Now this is along the coast of the Dingle Peninsula. More abandoned stone houses. And this is Slayhead. And there was a plein air painter right there. And I went up to him. It turned out to be French. We had a lovely conversation. And I flew my drone, but I don't have any drone pictures. They also had the Gallerus Oratory there. 6th to 12th century, date and function unknown. I see I spelled function wrong. Still debated. Probably some kind of prayer building, completely empty. There's the view from the Gallerus Oratory. There it is at a distance. And this was Dingle Bay at dusk. I thought it was just so beautiful. I had to stop my car and take this picture. There's nothing historical about this, just beauty. Okay, and then the following day, I think I stayed in Killarney that night. I did the Ring of Kerry. Now this is the Kerry Bog Village, one more historical recreation. All right, a gypsy caravan. There were many more constructions, but the mannequins weren't as good. Not as realistic, not as pitiable. But they did have an exhibit on bog bodies that were retrieved from the bog, preserved by the peat in the bog. So this is Irish life in the 19th century. And a real house. Now also in the Ring of Kerry, you see the Daniel O'Connell Memorial Church. Now, who was Daniel O'Connell? He was the great liberator of Ireland in the first half of the 19th century, who fought for Irish freedom. Remember that Ireland was under the thumb of the English, who were in fact extremely oppressive. Lord Byron, whom I've been studying, was very much for Irish freedom. And yet the the Prime Minister at the time, Peel, passed these terrible laws which said that Irish Catholics could not own property in Ireland, only the Protestants, which made the Catholics into serfs. And Daniel O'Connell stood up for Irish freedom in Parliament, and pushed for it. Of course, it didn't come about until the 20th century, but he was a friend of Bolivar's. Bolivar knew him, Simon Bolivar, and also Frederick Douglass. Or Frederick Douglass considered him a great liberator. So he's right there with Bolivar and Douglass in that period of freedom seeking, of course, which broke out in the 1848 revolutions in France and Germany. So here's the interior, and as was remarked to me, it's the only church named for a non-saint or non-mythological character. It's named after a human being. There it is, and it's on the Ring of Kerry. This is Ballycarbery Castle, 1560, a ruin, very beautiful ruin. And the vines, the roots growing up it, the negative space. I love these things. And there's my drone picture of Ballycarbery Castle. See, there's very little left of it. There it is again. And you could visit two round forts, two stone forts. And I went to say Leacanabuil, which is this. There it is, 9th century. You can walk around it. And they have an underground passage there. There's Ballycarbery from a distance. And this is the other one, Cahergall, from my drone. And there's my drone. Okay? So there's Leacanabuil, and there I am. Okay? And there's the other one, which is right nearby. I didn't go visit it personally. I just saw it from the air. And some cows nearby, too. Some good cows. All right, Kerry Peninsula. Now, these are the Skelligs, the Skellig Islands. And this is Skellig Michael, which has a very famous monastery on it. And you can see the boats plying the waters. And it's really cool to go visit the monastery, except at the time that I tried to make a reservation, it was booked till the end of the season, which is October 2nd. You have to really book this 6 months in advance, because everyone wants to go there, and there was a recent movie made there, I forget what it was. So there they are, and I'm walking to Bray Head, the end of the Kerry Peninsula, and I meet these 5 women, and there they are, and this is an English woman who's teaching these 4 Italian young women English. And this was a watchtower, again, against Napoleon, 1815, a very unprepossessing building, but when you go in, it was quite interesting. Both the graffiti, right, and the view up, because the floor was missing. And here's Bray Head, there's my shoe. And you can see the Skelligs in the background, there's looking down. All the photographers. And this was a slate quarry, right there. And here I am under the gunnery. Whenever I saw gunnery, I went under it immediately because I get these wonderful transmitted light rather than reflected light pictures. There it is. And you can't hold on to the stem because it has thorns on it. There it is from the outside. So you can see the size of the leaves with my shadow. Yeah. So you can see why I could create the illusion of the fairies. They're colorful houses on the other side of the water from the Ring of Kerry, and they say they painted them different colors so that the drunks could find their way home at night. Beautiful views from the Ring of Kerry. And now down to Killarney. Oh, back at Killarney. Now, you go back to Killarney, and there's Killarney at the end of the Ring of Kerry, on the mainland side, out away from the Atlantic, go east, and the Ring of Kerry ends in Killarney National Park, which is dominated by Muckrose Castle at the beginning, and wonderful botanicals there. and this was some karst, right, that I spied from the shore, and I found my way to it, took all kinds of pictures, but the best picture was this negative space profile that I just discovered. Oh, this is the karst. And then driving along through the national park, I stopped and saw this wonderful symmetrical hill in the very placid water. And in another place I stopped, and there was this wonderful moss-covered rock with twisted trunks. I love this kind of stuff. So I just wandered around it for 10 minutes and took pictures. Then there was a caretaker's building, which looked like a small castle. And I made it through the fence, which was very easy, and took these pictures of another ruin, small-scale castle. A waterfall, and then looking back over, I think this is from what they call ladies' view, because when Queen Victoria went there with her ladies-in-waiting, they all loved it, so they decided to name it Ladies' View in honor of Queen Victoria's ladies. And this is a fellow who is playing an uilleann, which is like bagpipes, except you don't have to blow in it. So it's a smoker's bagpipes. You just pump it. His name was Declan Buckley. Okay, now we head for Cork. Can you see that I've circled it? Can you see? No? Okay, Cork. And I stayed in this neighborhood with a French guy who actually was Apple's representative in Asia. And I saw the Crawford Art Museum, which is quite an art museum, which has this wonderful collection of casts, which was acquired in 1818, so early 19th century casts. So before photography, this of course was the way artists practiced their craft. They copied from these casts. There's the famous Laocoon ensemble, which is from about 200 BCE. And I had just seen the original one in the Vatican the year before. Yeah. And of course the Belvedere torso, which I've labeled, this famous Greek torso, all right, is in the Vatican, which I had also seen. And you can see the difference between the Greek sculptures and the heaviness and the muscularity, and the Roman sculptures, which are generally lighter. And this is an angular view of Laocoon, who had offended Poseidon, and so Poseidon sent a sea serpent to kill him and his sons. This is a political painting. This is another political painting. Now this is men of the South. In other words, these are Republican Army regulars or irregulars fighting for the freedom of Ireland. And notice the date. Okay, right around the time of the war. Okay, and he lived into our current period. Now this is meant to evoke pity. Of course, it's an eviction scene of Irish Catholics, and the landlord, presumably this man, is enforcing the non-payment of rent, getting rid of him, and so he has no, this is the landlord. I'm sorry, this is the landlord. He has the soldiers come to evict them. This is the neighborhood of Cork, right near the museum, and the famous, what's the name of this river? I forget. This famous river. Now you've heard of lace curtain Irish. Well, here's some lace curtains. Now we're going to see Blarney Castle. There's Blarney Castle. On the way to Blarney Castle, as you walk up the path, you see these trees which have wool knit socks on them. And you look at Blarney through this hole. They have wonderful gardens and morgunera. They also have a special poison garden, which is highly labeled, and they teach you all about these poisonous plants. I photographed that completely. Then I got in line to kiss the Blarney Stone, and after an hour, 15 minutes of which was in pouring rain, I got up to this place, and I looked ahead, and I saw how slowly it was going, and I thought, I don't want to spend 2 more hours here, so I bailed. And I said goodbye to this young English woman who was complaining and complaining and complaining. But I did take a picture of the historical graffiti. So you see incandescent light here on the left and daylight here on the right. And my host that night had said, go to Roche's Point, you'll see sea caves. Well, I went to Roche's Point, and I didn't find the sea caves, but I discovered, much more interestingly, these incredible rocks on the shore. I just love this stuff. And this is my favorite. It looks like a buried giant. You see the eye here? Periwinkles and limpets. See a limpet over here. These are limpets, periwinkles, no barnacles here. And patterns on these rocks. Just love this stuff. It's a panorama that I made. Then I made it to the Ballymaloe cooking school and organic garden, right about 9 p.m. You can see the sun sets quite late. Here are the nasturtiums. And there are artichokes. And they have a little artificial lake with a Greek temple, and guess what? More Gunnera. Oh, this is supposed to be at the beginning. She was actually the ex-girlfriend of the owner of the museum, the Celtic Museum, and I gave her a ride. I think that's the end. No. This is the rest of the Gunnera. That was out of place. Okay. Then I spent the next night in Waterford, and then I wanted to go to the west to see the Irish National Historical Park, but I passed through New Ross and saw the Dunbrody, which was a recreation of a real ship from 1849, also called the Dunbrody, which stands permanently on the river harbor, and took the tour, and it was all about the famine, and it was brilliant with two reenactors. So they called it the famine ship. So the people crossing, and the crossing at that time took 2 weeks, and whole families would go, and if they paid £3, I don't know, 6 shillings, they were steerage passengers, and they ate hardtack, this kind of bread. They had 1 hour a day on deck with the fresh air, and they emptied all of their family's waste in a bucket like this, defecation, urination, and vomit. And of course the ship always had rats. And this is a woman representing the poor passenger who would be Catholic with her baby. And this is a woman representing a wealthy passenger who paid £25 for her passage, had the run of the ship, ate with the captain, was very arrogant, and she had mentioned that she left Ireland to go to America because she had no more customers for her shop. So I said, "You're Protestant, aren't you?" She said, "Yes, how did you know?" I said, "Because you own property." And she turned to someone and said, "He's an intelligent." I happen to know that. Anyway, so she played her part very well. And then they also had this whole display of Irish people who had made good in America, with the Kennedys first among them, and then all of these other famous people from Ireland and America. Okay, the Dunbrody Abbey, very close by. And there was a maze at the visitor center across the way. Fern Castle, nearby. Now I'm headed towards Kilkenny. I just found this beautiful little town called Thomastown in County Kilkenny. I thought it was so beautiful, I just stopped and had to take pictures. And then Bennett's Bridge. This is right on my way to Kilkenny, just very beautiful. And here's Kells Priory, which I saw the following morning. I put these in black and white. And the rain always adds wonderful reflections to these ruins. And there's my drone photograph of Kells Priory. And a young man came over and told me I was not allowed to fly a drone, but I had my drone. I'd taken my 6 minutes of the drone. That's fine. The sheep inspected me. They didn't quiz me. And Jerpoint Abbey was this was something that wasn't even on my program, but as I drove by, I said, "Wait a second, what?" And I went in and photographed. It was brilliant, fascinating. And then I saw that it was a major site, a major ruin. Some of it because they have this art, gisants. And then I finally made it to Kilkenny. Kilkenny Castle was constructed in 1195, but it became just a noble's castle. The Butler family lived there, who were very friendly with the English royalty, and it certainly wasn't a fortified castle at that time. These are the views from Kilkenny Castle, the Moorish staircase, and their art gallery. Now notice, what do aristocrats prize as art? Portraits of famous people, so they're basically dropping names, tapestries of oppression and battles. Okay. And I think this is Francis I. Then I'm headed back to Dublin, leaving Kilkenny, but I stopped at the Rock of Dunamis, okay, which is another fort, and it was lightly raining, so I didn't fly my drone. Okay, Trinity College, where Joyce went to college, the famous Protestant college. No Catholics until 1970, if you can imagine.
59.
The prejudice was terrible. I mean, look, you know, this not too dissimilar from Columbia. I missed, the Book of Kells was closed by the time I got there. And this, of course, is a post box in Ireland. It's the same as the one in Great Britain, except it's green instead of red. Okay, now that's the end of this group. Now I take you to Northern Ireland. And what do I do? What is it? Okay, close. No, wait. Oh, I know. That's right. Now we go to Ulster. Okay, are you still with me or are you bored? Everyone still with me? No one's saying anything. Okay. So up in, I take the train to Belfast, and then the following morning I rent my car and go to this recreation of life in Ulster 100 years ago, say 1915, 1917. So here are the brands that were sold in the apothecaries, the way cigarettes were sold, a modest home interior, the outhouse, there was no indoor plumbing, how people slept. They had chamber pots, of course. Carpenter's shop, bicycle shop, another outhouse, and this wonderful steam tractor. Bank. Now the banker's house was a little more plush. They had a piano, they had culture, they had a kitchen, they had this very fancy pump in their back courtyard, and they had books in their house. I didn't see books in any of the other more modest workers' houses. There's their library. Okay. Victorian wallpaper. Indoor plumbing at last. And the post office, blacksmith shop, the school. Okay, astronomical geography, an interesting concept. And the attendance record of each day, a farmhouse. And this wonderful sow. This is a very live sow with her piglets. And the mill. And this would be a meeting hall for the parish, parochial hall. And this was like a hardware store. And this was where they spun cloth. And the clothing store. And now I took off from there, left. I didn't see anything else in Belfast, and that's a little outside of town. I headed for Navan Fort. Now, in Navan Fort, they have this museum, and it shows you what the fort looked like, because now it's just a grassy mound. And so they built this structure there and then burned it down. This is their model, but there's the painting of it's burning down. So I took the path up and then I visited the mound. This is the mound. This is it. Not a lot. A green castle. Oh, okay. All right. Now I have to explain. From Navan Fort, I went to Londonderry or Derry, okay? Stayed overnight, and then the following day was a Sunday, and my host, his name was Cole, and I drove to the Inishowen Peninsula, in County Donegal. Now, Donegal is part of the Republic of Ireland, even though it's geographically part of Ulster. It's a very wild, beautiful county. So our first stop was Greencastle, which is another castle ruin on the water. There he is. Now, I slipped on the mud and fell and skinned my knee, and this lovely family took me in and gave me some tea. So I took their portrait, the Irish hospitality. And then we visited a few of the beaches. So these fabulous rocks. And we found a hermit who lived on one of the beaches, and he was completely self-contained, cooked all his own food, had his toilet paper right there. And there was this the wee free library. I thought it was so cute and so considerate for people wanting to read on the beach. Can you imagine? You borrowed books and you put back books. And Malin was very beautiful, coastline with a ruined house, but also a shrine to the Virgin where people put their wishes on rocks. They wrote their wishes on rocks, and there were felt pens that you could use to write your name or your wish. There she is. And this rock out in the middle of the water, you go under, that was under this rock. There's Cole on top of the rock. There he is. And I flew the drone, and this is from the drone, and from a view from the drone. And then Carrick-a-Braggy Castle. View from Carrick-a-Braggy Castle. Hello. Wonderful rock. There is my drone picture of Carrick. It's very small. There it is again. Strayed Church. Just beautiful walls. And Glenavon Park that had a waterfall at the end. Okay, so there's a close-up of Inishowen. So we had gone, you can see our route here, and up here, and all around. And then we're going to make the full. Now, at the end, here it is, it's about 8:30 at night, Grianan Alley Round Fort. This is rather late, 6th to 7th century CE. So you climb up, you go in and around it. The attendant was gone, so she didn't charge us anything. There's Cole. And this is a drone picture, as is this. So you get an idea of the thing. There it is again. Now, the following day was Monday. Cole had to work. He's a doctor, so I took off by myself to see Slieve League in the south of Donegal, once again leaving Northern Ireland. But it's a soft border. No one stops you. You just have to use different money. In Northern Ireland, you use pounds. In the Republic, you use euros. This is Slieve League, one of the most beautiful and the tallest sea cliffs of Europe. I call this the Mustache Lake, overlooking these cliffs. Look at this. Isn't this magnificent? Slieve League. Okay. Oh, Museum of Country Life. That's you saw that already. Okay. This is more Slieve League. That was out of place. This is still Slieve League.
So what was
And this is a panorama that I took. This is made of several photographs stitched together. Yes.
What was the temperature when you were there?
It was very comfortable. It was not too hot, not too cold. Okay. Now what? Oh, now we're going to see Londonderry. Okay. Now in Londonderry, you see two cities. You see the rich Protestant city, which is walled. So I'm walking around on the walls around this beautiful city. Okay, and the delivery of beer in the morning. And the pubs are just gorgeous over there. Look.
Is that the same old Donnery?
What?
Is that the same old Donnery, James Donnery?
Is it the same old what?
Well, it says old Donnery. Is that the same family name old? Oh, you see.
O'Donnell's?
Yeah. Oh, Peter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not James.
No. Okay, now, Now, please notice the self-pity in this. Okay, the loyalists are the people who agree that Northern Ireland should be separate from the Republic because there are so many Protestants there, who were imported really from the borderlands of England and Scotland, because the Scottish and the English didn't want them. They were too combative, so they sent them over to Ireland to keep the Catholics down. They settled in the northern counties, the 6 counties that became Northern Ireland, and they're always extremely combative and very victimy. Okay, so I photographed this. Still under siege, no surrender. They run the place, but they consider themselves the victims. All right. Whereas on the other side of the wall, the Catholic side, there are murals commemorating the Troubles, and there you see Bernadette Devlin, who's still alive at age 75, and yeah, some pretty tough murals. Okay, so they're completely opposed to the Loyalists. So you still see this tension in Derry. This is a composite, and you can buy these photographs of the conflict. And this is in the little museum that they have. The threat. These are the people who were killed in the massacre in 1972 or 3. Okay, now we leave Londonderry, or Derry, and we head up to the Antrim coast. First we see Dunluce Castle, which is just magnificent, and these were 3 tourists who put on some of the medieval clothing that they have available to you. So they posed for me. Here's Dunluce Castle during the day, a beautiful ruin overlooking the water. And here it is at night. Oh wait, this is out of place. This is White Rocks. Oh no. Oh no. I'm sorry. I did see this. This is correct. White Rocks. A beautiful park area with these wonderful formations. Okay, that must be the end of this group. Right. Okay. So go like this, and then we go like this. Okay, and then we go Ulster Part 2, right? No, this is Ulster Part 2. Yes, that's right. Okay. Okay. View full screen. Okay. This is a place on the way up there called Mussenden, from 1785, from the 18th century. And this is the temple at the end of the property, and looking down on the water there. Okay, now I went to see the rope bridge, Carrick-a-Raid rope bridge, the day it was closed because they said it was too rainy, and the sky was threatening, but it didn't rain the day that I went to see it when it was closed. Now I went to see it again when it was open. There's the rope bridge. And there it is open. Okay. All right, I went back the following day and paid my £7. Are you leaving? Okay, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
There I am walking over the rope bridge to see the bird sanctuary. Okay, and this is Dark Hedges, which was one of the places that they filmed with Game of Thrones, and this is their publicity, but this is what it really looks like. And this is a little town of Browshane, and you see the Ulster flags and the British flags. They're very proud of their British connections. Okay. Thatch Inn, which is in Glenery Forest Park. And if you can stay 2 more seconds, you'll see Giant's Causeway, which was my favorite. Oh, and this is the Antrim coast. Oh, and this is... Okay, now we're going to go see Giant's Causeway. This is the most magnificent thing in my whole trip. These are two women from Spain and Portugal. No, from Brazil and Spain. Look at this. And you have one of these.
This is amazing. Ooh.
And then I saw it at night too. And this is the panorama. And then okay. And that's the end of Ireland. And I have a special treat if I have time. It's now 5 o'clock. Okay, in 15 minutes I'm going to show you Venice. Okay? Because I went to Venice right after Ireland. And I put this together just now. Okay? All right, so I'm going to give you a very quick trip through the what? What's wrong? I can't see these. To preview? No? I don't have what? I haven't checked these. Their information. Wait a second. Select the item in the finder. Choose file. Oh, I know what I have to do. You can't see anything? This is terrible. Oh.
Go back.
What?
Go back. Select the folder, maybe both of them. Just
Select the folder?
yeah. Do Command I, open file. And sharing information.
Oh, I see. Huh.
All right, we'll try one.
Try one of them? Okay. I see, yeah, right. Let's open the folder and try one. I can read and write. What's the big deal? Let me just see. What happens if I bring it down to preview? All right, so they're giving me some problems here. All right. Well, I can look at it through Photoshop. That would be terrible. Although they're pretty small. What can we do? Oh, through photos, maybe? Where's photos? Let's see if we can see it through here. Okay. New album import. Let's import. Okay. Come on. Oh, import no name. Okay. Okay, let's look at this one. Okay. All right. Now let's see if I can enlarge this. How do you enlarge it? What?
There's still in the import, you have to finish import. So
Oh.
you select all.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Okay, it's pretty quick. These are small. See, what I was spending all the time doing was reducing these to slideshow size from large size. Okay, that's it. Right? Okay. Go to the top. And now I can look at the larger. Okay. Oh, phooey, how do I get it? Can't get any larger than that? Let's see, view. View photos? What?
Go back where you were thinking. That one.
Yeah. Oh no, that's Ireland.
Last import.
That's Ireland. What?
Last import on
Oh, yeah.
the.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Try select all. And then under image, I think, under view, under full screen.
Let's see.
That's,
Hold on, let me just select one.
you have to go all the way up to the top.
less than 4. Let's try less than 4. Oh, how do I get it? What? On the image? Okay, now let's see if we can just move. Yeah, now we can move through them. Okay, we can make our own slideshow. Okay, so this. When I was first coming to my hotel, I passed this, and you can see, well, this is Venice. And this was right near the Damien Hirst show. Okay, so we're just going to move through Venice, and we get to the Piazza San Marco. Okay, now we're in the Biennale. I'm just going to go through it if I remember anything. This is a single work. This is, you go inside and you lie down inside this big net. The Hall of Mirrors. So there were empty frames and there were mirror frames. Oh, these are the people at a place where I got dinner, and we had such a good conversation. He said, next time you're in Venice, you can stay with me. Mm-hmm. And so these are some views of Venice at night. This is a mask shop. And there's the artist. His name is Hamid. The Bridge of Sighs. These are masks made of dough. And this is at night, all right, the Cathedral San Marco and people eating. And this is a glass shop. And this is the vulgar tourist stuff. These are all aprons. Can you imagine? Okay, here we are back in the Biennale. I think this is from an African country. Notice the reference to Goya. And this is the way the Nazis represented black people, right? Blacks and Jews. This is Ecuador with the masks, and then the names of the languages of people in Ecuador. Oh, look, I see. Okay. This is from Malta. Malta. A little caricature of the Pope. This is Ireland. There was a movie, a very impressive movie by this actress. And this was New Zealand. They had a moving video that was part cartoon that stretched for maybe 50 feet in a darkened room that was extremely impressive. So you just walked along and the thing moved to your left, and all these people were actually moving. This was from Ghana, I believe, and it was called "What Can Go Wrong" for tourists, and these are aliens milking the semen from these men.
What's made out of this? Is black and white and what?
Yeah, it was engraved in some black material. What Can Go Wrong was the name of this. Peru, the country of tomorrow. So all of these political figures are saying tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. This was Jamaica, and they have people floating in boats which are floating in the water. This is outside. I love this. This is Tikiriko. Yeah. And then here, this was an installation where they seem to be manufacturing dead Christs. And this is China. China had a very big exhibit. This is China. What is it?
Do you have to pay to go to each?
No. You just paid. I paid 16 euros for the whole thing for 2 days.
Wow.
This is China, and that thing is moving back and forth across the screen of landscape. This was Lebanon, and it was presented as a kind of a mechanical god in a very dark room that all of a sudden had a spotlight.
But what's made out of that?
It was metal. This is China. And these are all flags of the world in black and white. little sculptures. And this is a movie. This is a surrealist movie that went on and on and on. This is the Israeli pavilion, and it represents a gunshot. So if you can imagine a politically neutral item. That's the end of that group. And then we have to import again. No, wait, how do I get out of this? Okay, wait, let me get out of this. Okay, there we go. Now, get rid of this. Okay. And photos, import. Oh, it's okay. Then we have to import the last group, which is this one. Okay. Review for import. Okay, now import all new photos, and then we'll look at this, and then we're done. Okay, now this is the Damien Hirst show. So you just got a very quick tour of the Biennale. Oh wait, this should be the end here. I see. Okay, so I'm going to start with this. These are some of his artifacts. Okay, and now let's go to the beginning. Okay, so we go up here. Okay, all right. That's his poster. Treasures from the Wreck of the Unbelievable. So you walk in and you see this huge 3-story statue, headless statue, encrusted, and there it is as it was found, supposedly underwater. There's the Medusa as she was found. There's the boat on which they excavated these things. An elephant skull as it was found. There's the big 3-story statue again. Another encrusted statue. And then all of a sudden you see a Mickey Mouse encrusted, and you realize that it's all a goof. It's all a joke. There's Goofy with barnacles. There's the elephant skull. There's the Medusa. And there's the model of the boat that was supposedly lost in the shipwreck, and you can see that its hull is opened up. There's the foot. And now I'm going to take you to the studio of Gigi Bon, who I just met, just walking along the street, and it was open. I walked in, and there she was with all of her amazing art. She's an internationally known artist, just discovered by accident. And that's her book.
She's a sculptress.
What?
Is she a sculptor?
Well, she's multimedia. Yeah, she does all this stuff. And the rhinoceros is one of her leitmotifs. Oh, this is a continuum of Damien Hirst.
Mm-hmm.
So he has, it looks like figures from Marvel Comics. These are very unlikely to be ancient sculptures. But there's this thing as it was discovered underwater, right? It's all a put on.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like it?
I loved it. You know,
It had so-so reviews.
what?
It had so-so reviews.
Oh yeah? No, I thought it was amazing. This is an illustration of how this is created. Starts out like this, then they do damage to it, then they have the incrustations. So he was very honest about about his techniques. Now I'm on my way to the airport, and I'm waiting for the Vaporetto. This is the Vaporetto, and there's a big pane of glass which reflects the Rialto Bridge. And there I've taken off, and I'm flying over Venice. There's the what I forgot. Campanile, the famous Campanile. Canal Grande is this. The Damien Hirst show was here and around here, so you had to and around here, so you had to go over the Academia Bridge and out to there. And these are other islands that are uninhabited on the Adriatic coast. So you can see that this is the geography of that area. And this is Long Island. I'm now in North America, and here I am about to land at Kennedy Airport, and that's the end. And thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. So let's turn on the lights. And